The following video contains fictional narratives inspired by a philosophical idea about a crime and human nature, and it is intended for a mature audience and for intellectual exploration only. This content does not encourage or endorse harmful behavior in any form. All characters and situations are imaginary. Hello, good morning. You wouldn't have supposed it, huh? Yesterday I happened to learn your address, and it recalled to my mind an article of yours which interested me at the time, something on crime. I forget the title. I read with pleasure 2 months ago. Come in. What do you want? And why you come here? I certainly did write an article upon a book 6 months ago, when I left the university. I was very much interested in your article. In your article, all men are divided into ordinary and extraordinary. Ordinary men have to live in submission, have no right to transgress the law, because they are ordinary. But extraordinary men have a right to commit any crime and to transgress any law in any way, just because they are extraordinary. That wasn't quite my contention, yet I admit that you have stated it almost correctly, perhaps if you like, perfectly so. The only difference is that I don't contend that extraordinary people are always bound to commit breaches of morals. I simply hinted that an extraordinary man has the right, an inner right to decide in his own conscience to overstep, only in case it is essential for the practical fulfillment of his idea, or sometimes, perhaps, of benefit to the whole humanity. What? What do you mean? A right to crime? Or justifying crime? I'm ready to make it as clear as I can. Perhaps I'm right in thinking you want me to. Very well. Explain it then. I maintain that if the discoveries of Kepler and Newton could not have been made known except by sacrificing the lives of one, a dozen, 100, or more men, Newton would have the right, would indeed have been innately bound to eliminate the dozen or the 100 men for the sake of making his discoveries known to whole humanity. But it does not follow from that Newton had a right to murder people right and left and to steal every day in the market. Then I remember I maintained in my article that all the legislators and leaders of man, such as Lycurgus, Solon, Napoleon, and so on, were all without exception criminals, from the very fact that, making a new law that transgressed the ancient one, handed down from the ancestors and held sacred by the people, and they did not stop short at bloodshed either. If that bloodshed, often of innocent persons fighting bravely in defense of an ancient law, were used to their cause, is remarkable. In fact, that the majority indeed of his benefactors and leaders of humanity were guilty of terrible carnage. In short, I maintain that all great men capable of giving a some new word must from their very nature be criminals, more or less. Of course, you see that there's nothing particularly new in all that. The same thing has been printed and read 1,000 times before. Can you tell the exact numbers of such people? How many do you think there are, the ordinary and the extraordinary? I don't insist upon exact numbers. I only believe in my leading idea that men are in general divided by a law of nature into two categories. Ordinary, you can also call inferior, that is so to say, material that serves only to reproduce its kind, and men who have the gift or the talent to utter a new word. There are, of course, innumerable subdivisions, but the distinguished features of both categories are fairly well marked. The first category, generally speaking, are men conservative in temperament and law abiding. They live under control and love to be controlled because that's their vocation, and there's nothing humiliating in it. For them, the second category all transgress the law. They are destroyers. The crimes of this man are of course relative and varied. For the most part, they seek in very varied ways the destruction of the present for the sake of the better. But if such a one is forced for the sake of his idea to step over a corpse or wade through blood, then he can, and is consigned a sanction for wading through blood that depends on the idea and its dimensions. Note that it's only in that sense I speak of the right to crime in my article. You remember it began with a legal question. There is no need for some anxiety, however, the masses will scarcely ever admit this right. They punish them or hang them more or less, and in doing so fulfill quite justly their conservative vocation. But the same masses set these criminals on a pedestal in the next generation and worship them more or less. The first category is always the man of the present, the second, the man of the future. The first preserve the world and people it. The second move the world and lead till it scarce. Each class has an equal right to exist. In fact, all have equal rights with me. But the same masters set these criminals on a pedestal in the next generation and worship them more or less. The first category is always the man of the present, and the second, the man of the future. The first preserved the world and people it. The second moved the world and laid it to its goal. Each class has an equal right to exist. In fact, all have equal rights with me. They are not always executed, some on the contrary, triumph in their lifetime. Oh yes, some attain their ends in this life, and then they begin executing other people. If it's necessary, indeed, for the most part they do. Your remark is very witty. Thank you. But tell me this, how do you distinguish these extraordinary people from the ordinary ones? Are there signs at their work? I feel there ought to be a more exactitude, more external definition. Excuse the natural anxiety of a practical law abiding citizen, but couldn't they adopt a special uniform? For instance, couldn't they wear something, be branded in some way? For if confusion arises and a member of one category imagines that he belongs to other, begins to eliminate obstacles, as he so happily expressed it then. Oh, that very often happens, and that remark is weightier than the other. Thank you. No reason to. But take note that the mistake can only arise in the first category, that is among the ordinary people. They are naturally obedient, sometimes fancy themselves as a revolutionaries and rush into new movements with sincerity, yet they never truly progress far. Their rebellion is harmless and often self-corrected through guilt or self-punishment. It's simply a natural law, nothing to be concerned about. But there's another thing worries me. Tell me, please, are there many people who have the right to kill others? These extraordinary people. I'm ready to bow down to them. Of course, but you must admit it's alarming if there are a great many of them, huh? Oh, needn't worry about that either. People with new ideas, people with faint capacities for saying something new are extremely few in number. Extraordinary, so in fact, one thing only is clear that the appearance of all these grades in subdivision of man must follow with unfailing regularity some law of nature. That law of course is unknown at present, but I am convinced that it exists and one day may become known. The vast of mankind is mere material and only exists in order by some great effort, by some mysterious process, by means of some crossing of races and stocks to bring into the world at last perhaps one man out of 1,000 with a spark of independence. 1 in 1,000 perhaps. I speak roughly, approximately, is born with some independence, and with a still greater independence, 1 in 100,000. The man of genius is one of millions, and the great genius, the crown of humanity, appear on earth perhaps one in many thousand millions. In fact, I have not peeped into the retort in which all this takes place. But there certainly is, and must be a definite law. It cannot be a matter of chance. Your attitude to crime is pretty clear to me now. But excuse me for my impertinence, you see. There are various practical possibilities that make me uneasy. What if some man or youth imagined that he is Lycurgus, a future one of course, and suppose he begins to remove all obstacles. There's a great enterprise is before him and needs money for it, and tries to get it. Do you see? I must admit that such cases certainly must arise. The vain and foolish are particularly apt to fall into that snare, young people especially. Yes, you see, well then. What then? That's not my fault. So it is, and so it always be. Society is too well protected by prisons, banishment, criminal investigators, penal servitude. There's no need to be uneasy. You have but to catch the thief. And what if we do catch him? Then he gets what he deserves. You're certainly logical, but what of his conscience? Why do you care about that? If he has a conscience, he will suffer for his mistake. That will be his punishment, as well as the prison. But the real geniuses, those who have the right to murder, shouldn't they to suffer at all, even for the blood they have shed? Why the word should? It's not a matter of permission or prohibition. He will suffer if he is sorry for his victim. Pain and suffering are always inevitable for large intelligence and a deep heart.